Our speaker today. This is always a neat meeting when we induct our new president. And our speaker is going to tell you all about himself and his family, so I'm not going to waste your time expounding more. But what I do want to say is Bill stepped in when we needed somebody to fulfill when our president-elect or our vice president had to relocate. And so that's not an easy task, to volunteer, to know that you won't have the prep time or the training time or things like that. But Bill did that, and that shows the true heart of a volunteer. So without further ado, Bill, come on up.
Hello, friends. So I am going to try to use the clicker here, see how that works. Look, it worked. Okay, great. So you all may know that I typically make the bio slide each week for our meetings. And this week, I decided I would not make a bio slide. But I will tell you a little bit about myself for those of you that maybe don't know. So I was born and raised in Trenton, New Jersey. I was born the day of the partial nuclear meltdown at 3 Mile Island. You all, some of the older folks may remember that. I'm the oldest of 3 children. My brother actually lived in Boulder for more than 20 years, but he's a free-spirited entrepreneur and now lives on a sailboat in the Caribbean with his wife and 2 daughters. My sister has a background in social work, but she's also got an MBA, and now she works in hospital administration in Denver. My parents moved from New Jersey several years ago and live over in Westminster on the Legacy Ridge Golf Course. My dad was a traffic engineer with the state of New Jersey and designed roads for decades. My mom was a history teacher and ran the history department at a relatively large Catholic high school for 35 years. I went to college and law school in Washington, D.C., where I lived for 15 years before moving to Colorado in 2012. I met the love of my life the very first day of law school in the financial aid line. We are still paying back the loans, but we're almost done. We have 2 children, Isaac, who is 16, and Caitlin, who is 14. They are smart, funny, compassionate, polite, and amazing kids, but don't tell them I said that, because I don't want it to go to their heads. I also, a little bit more background. My wife, Jamie, is the general counsel for a startup that provides diabetes care. I married up. If she joined the club, you all would forget my name. After law school, I clerked for a judge for a year, and since then, I've spent more than 20 years representing plaintiffs in all types of class action lawsuits. In 2018, I started a law firm of my own with 2 fantastic partners. We have offices in DC and New York and Philadelphia with a staff of 12. Fun fact, you all may know that our former president, current Lisbon resident, and responder today, Chad Stam, is my brother-in-law, and that his wife and my wife are fraternal twins. So hi to Allie and Seb and Chad, if you're out there. Okay, next thing that we're going to do is a short survey. I promise it's really short. How many of you know how to take a picture with your phone to pull up a QR code? All right. For those of you that do not, I wonder if Isaac and Caitlin, the kind, compassionate, wonderful children that they are, might walk around, and if anybody needs a hand at all with that, just raise your hand and they'll come over and assist. I'll also note, because Professor Kurtz told me that I needed to put at least some papers on the table. There are paper versions, a couple paper versions of each. Obviously, for tabulation of the data, I would love for you to use your phone if you can, but if you prefer to use the paper, I understand. I would just ask that you make sure that it gets to me before you go. While you work on the survey, Tyler is going to play a short slideshow, and these are photos. Look for one BRC member, Richard Jobson. But these are photos from a variety of World Community Service projects that this club supported this year. Please take a few moments and complete the survey. Thank you. Tyler's going to give folks 1 more minute to scan. Awesome. Can you put them on the table there, baby? Okay, anybody still need more time? How we doing? All right. So, thanks, Tyler. So thanks everybody for taking a couple of minutes to fill that out. Really appreciate that. As you probably gathered from the survey, this will allow us to get a better sense of how membership wants to prioritize the club's giving going forward. These results will also help us understand how folks want to participate in the club. In the coming weeks, I'll tabulate the data and report out how the club expressed preferences for deployment of our resources. We'll compare and contrast that with how we are currently deploying our resources. To that end, today we're going to spend a little time digging into where we spend our resources now. I realize many of you may know some or most of the economic information, but I suspect that many of you don't. There are a number of facts that I'm going to go over during today's presentation that surprised me, which makes me think that it may surprise some of you. And I hope at the end you'll view it as a valuable use of your time. After we discuss finances, I'd like to discuss 3 goals that I have for this upcoming Rotary year. I am more than happy to answer questions at the end after I've spoken, but I also don't mind at all being interrupted. So if you see something on a slide, some of this may be a little bit dense, and you have a question, please do not hesitate to raise your hand during the talk. Even if you don't have a microphone, I'll just repeat your question so that the YouTube video catches it and those that are watching remotely can hear what the question was. Okay, so let's jump in. To understand the work of the Boulder Rotary Club, we have to understand how we're spending the resources that we have available to us. So, talk about that a little bit. The finances of the club are detailed and reasonably complicated, so I'll offer 2 caveats for the remarks that I'm going to make today. First, I'm going to simplify the numbers a little bit for the sake of brevity. Second, it's important to remember that there are actually 2 distinct entities at play here: the Boulder Rotary Club and the Boulder Rotary Club Foundation. Even if I don't constantly distinguish between them today, it's important to remember that those 2 distinctions do exist. I also want to be clear that the info that I'm going to share today is not secret. It is not confidential. These are our books. And our treasurer, Brad Weasley, is always happy to talk through these things and answer questions. Grant Hickman, who handles the books for the foundation, is always welcome to discuss things with you. And obviously, Michael Weatherwax, who's been working on the club's finances since approximately the time the club started in 1919. So, let's start with the operations budget, okay? As I said, we pay about $150 quarterly, or exactly $150 quarterly, or $600 per year per member. How's that break down? So, $100 from each member goes to Rotary International to support the work and projects of the international entity. 50% from each member goes to district dues. So that leaves $450 per member per year. So let's look for a moment at where that $450 goes. This may surprise you. It surprised me when I learned it, but none of this money goes to good works. Your dues money does not go to projects that our club completes. That's not where the money goes. Let's see where it goes. Okay, so I've broken down our operations budget into a simplified form here. This is not every line item. This is just the top 8 of about 24 items. These 8 items cover about $177,000 of the approximately $192,000 in our annual operating budget for the club. As you can see, the biggest item here is meals. Now, for those that have been in the club since before COVID, you know that previously we charged one price for dues that encompassed meals, and so everybody essentially paid for all meals even if they didn't attend the meeting. After COVID, and perhaps during COVID, there was a concern that not everyone felt safe coming back immediately, and so we revised that process, and so now you get this $600 annual due charge, and then you get billed as you go for meals. Next is facility rental. As you might imagine, this covers the JCC and any alternative location that we might use for our meetings when the JCC isn't available. Meeting AV is next. Not shockingly, it's Tyler. He's amazing. While you're applauding, club administration is next, and yes. That covers the million things that Vanessa does and the painstaking work that Kathy does with our bookkeeping. Accounting and software are exactly what you would imagine, and we already discussed RI and district dues. So that's operations. This is what it takes to put on our meetings, run our club, and bill our members. Now let's move on to good works. So, our annual good works budget at present is about $150,000. And let's look at how we spend those resources. So, thanks to George and the Candle Crew, and the generosity of our members, we receive about $10,000 per year for good works from that source. Unrestricted, periodic, and one-time contributions make up about another $20,000, and that includes the proceeds from the raffle. But the big fundraiser, as we all know, of every year is the gala. I'm told that we're still tabulating for this year, and we may well exceed the number that we see here, but I think, dollars in the bank at this moment, as of last count, I think we're around this number of 60,000, but I expect that we're gonna see an even higher number in the near term. So, side note here, we cannot say thank you enough to all the people that make the gala happen, both this year and in prior years. Historically, you all probably know, Kitty DeKeefer has been the champion of that effort. This year, Leslie Hertz took over and did an absolutely amazing job. And there were many other people that helped her, Jim Rolfus, Joe and Margaret Tilson, Danny Lindau on the award side, Kathy Heiderbrecht, Priscilla Newberry, and many others, and I apologize if I've neglected to mention anyone. Also a big thank you to Doug for running the paddle raiser. So endowments make up the balance of our budget. The club has about $1.5 million in resources. We have $1 million spread across the endowment for education, the Hill Fund, and the GAM Fund, which are funds that have been restricted to education historically. This is part of the reason why our giving has run heavily towards education. We have roughly 500,000, somewhere between 400,000 and 500,000 in unrestricted funds, which goes to support other work that the club does. All right. Let's take a look at how we're spending our good works budget. As I mentioned, it's about $150,000 a year. I haven't listed every single thing here. I've left off the Homeless Kit Project, Rotaract, and Interact, a few of the projects that take smaller resources from the club, just for the sake of brevity, and so you all can kind of look at the major spend items on our list. This also leaves off the Gun Safety and Violence Prevention Committee, championed by Constance Holden, but that's primarily because this is based on last year's numbers. And next year, I suspect that we'll share data about that work as well. Okay, so vocational scholarships are our single largest line item at $30,000 a year. These are scholarships for kids attending community college or seeking vocational training. In many instances, they are first-generation Americans, the first people in their family to go to college, an incredible group of people. One thing that we are hoping to accomplish with our transition of the website and to using HubSpot more is to maintain better contact with some of these kids, because the stories are amazing and we should be celebrating this work. So that's top line item. Next is residential scholarships, which you all probably know award scholarships in a limited way to kids from area high schools who are attending four-year colleges in Colorado. So if a child or student is going to UCLA, not eligible. This is Colorado schools that we give scholarships to. Next line item, World Community Service. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Alzheimer's and dementia is next at $16,000. This is supporting the Alzheimer's Walk, providing information packets to local doctors' offices to provide to individuals recently diagnosed with dementia, and an end-of-life video conversation project that Janet Beardsley is championing. Study abroad scholarships are next at $12,000. This program supports local college students studying abroad. As you all have probably seen them come and speak at our meetings and express gratitude for their scholarship opportunities. Next, the Rotary Youth Exchange receives $10,000. We regularly see those students come once a month, and this supports a small stipend for them and other financial support. PPE is next at $10,000. You all probably know, but the PPE committee supports tree plantings, pollinator gardens, the Wildfire Ready program. Next is behavioral wellness at just short of $9,000. This supports the suicide prevention programs, a mental health crisis forum, scholarships for public health students. Next is Peace Builders. This committee supports various programs directed at fostering peace in our community and around the world, as you might imagine. And the last program is the IDD program, which is going to be renamed the Neurodiversity Program. It was originally championed by Jim Umland, who's done a fantastic job, but is going to pass the torch somewhat to Drew Frank, who's going to take responsibility for that committee going forward. Really excited to see the work that they're going to do in the next year. Okay, I want to circle back to World Community Service. You all saw all these photographs that were cycling through during the time you were completing the survey. And I personally was not really aware of the work of this committee until I started to look more carefully and prepare for this upcoming year. And I think all our committees do wonderful work, but I want to highlight this committee because I think really very few of us know how engaged they are and understand the work that they're completing in our world. And your dollars are helping support all of these projects. And I don't know that everyone really realizes that. So I'm going to try to shine a little bit more of a light on the World Community Service Committee this year. And we don't have time to get into it today because it is a rather complicated process. But the World Community Service Committee benefits from and participates in both district and global grants. I think some of us may understand what that means. Many of us do not. We don't understand necessarily how large the grants are, who's participating, how those grants exist at both the district level and at the Rotary International level. But we are incredibly fortunate as a club because we have someone who really does understand that. Alessandro Sachs is an expert in this part of the process. As the year goes on, I would like for us to talk more about World Community Service, how we're participating in the work that the club is doing, both nationally and internationally. You all may have seen that the Colorado Recidivism Project is listed here. So these are programs that are in our backyard and in backyards that are very, very far away. Okay, I know that was a bit of a whirlwind, but I thought it was perhaps helpful to just kind of look at how we're spending this money that you're donating to the club. I'm gonna transition now and talk for a couple minutes about next year. And in the immortal words of the former NBA basketball player Charles Oakley, this is an incredible club that does incredible work. This is not a club that needs to be fixed. I don't view my role this year as really fixing anything, but I do hope that through the course of this year, I'll be able to add a little bit of value in a few areas. And there's three in particular that I'd like to briefly mention today. So, show of hands, who's familiar with the Paul Harris program? All right, I think it's pretty universal that most folks are. And I think that's in part due to the generosity of Michael Weatherwax in supporting matching. It's also a program that's more visible because Rotary does a pretty good job making us aware of it. Now, show of hands for those of you who are aware of the Whitehead Society. That is a much smaller group of people. Stephen Whitehead was a doctor who was a member of our club for many years. A small society was created to recognize giving to the Boulder Rotary Club Foundation. But we often don't focus on that. We don't publicize it. But those dollars that come into our foundation support our work. And one of my goals for this year is to increase awareness about our giving internally in the club and to talk a little bit more about legacy giving to Rotary, to the Boulder Rotary Club Foundation. I'm not going to say more about that right now, but as the year goes on, we'll talk a little bit more about that. The second thing I hope to accomplish this year is to create an additional source of funding for our work. And it was interesting, I went to the presidential-elect training. Mike Brady actually was one of the teachers, which was great. I got to spend a bunch of time with Mike. He actually crashed on my couch the second night of Pets because he did not have a room for the second night. In any event, in one of the sessions, it was open and we were able to ask questions. And the question that I asked was, if you could tell me what the best fundraising project your club does is. And this was a group of all large clubs. So one guy gets up and he says, well, I've put on a number of golf tournaments, and this year we're gonna do a shooting tournament. And there's gonna be handguns, and there's gonna be sniper rifles, and there's gonna be shotguns and clay pigeons. And I said, I represent the Boulder Rotary Club. They would run me out of that place if I suggested something like that. That's not gonna work. Somebody else gets up, the guy from the Colorado Springs big club gets up and he says, well, we do this project where we partner with local artists and they sculpt butterflies and dragonflies and we sell them for $2,000 to $3,000 each and we share the profits with the artists. I said, I don't think that's gonna work either. Finally, somebody gets up and says, well, we do a really simple project. We sell 500 raffle tickets for $100 each. It generates $50,000. The winner gets $10,000 and the club keeps $40,000 for its good works budget. Now I said, now you're talking. So one of the things that I hope to do, not too close to the time that we've all contributed generously at the gala, sometime later this year though, I would really like for us to seriously consider a raffle project that could generate not nearly as much money as Leslie and the team generated at the gala, but that could be a generous source of funding for projects that we'd like to complete. And that brings me to the third and final goal that I have for this year. Historically, this club has completed many international service projects. Darryl Brown, the Kotkeys, a number of others have been involved in these projects historically, but we haven't in recent years done that. Our world is big, and we are doing work in this community, but there are opportunities to do work in other communities too. And so my third goal for this year is that we put together an international service trip. I don't have a specific project in mind. I would love to solicit ideas from our club members. I will say that one of the projects that I found quite moving when I was at PETS was some clubs from up in Estes or a club up in Estes that installed water pumps or water filtration systems in Ecuador, at the border of Ecuador and Peru, deep in the Amazon. These communities don't have access to clean water, and as a result of deforestation, they're facing all kinds of problems. So for $42,000, they went down and installed a solar and wind-powered water pump or water filtration system. And there were 2 villages of about 900 people in total. The kids couldn't go to school because they had to pick up buckets and go to the water source that was clean enough, which was quite a ways away. And so they spent their days going back and forth. The boys and the older boys and men, because of deforestation, were having to go progressively further from their villages to find sources of protein. And we don't always think about the fact that bringing water has all of these cascading effects. Clean water allows those kids to now go to school instead of spend their days carrying buckets of water. The boys and men now don't have to spend nearly as much time hunting because they can hatch chickens and raise them domestically because they have clean water to be able to do that. So the impact and opportunity for our club to take something on like this is, in my opinion, very much worthwhile. Okay. I want to be available to you all if folks have questions, not just now in a moment, but actually going forward. I am giving you my email and my cell phone number. Obviously, this stuff is available on the website as well, but I want to encourage you to reach out. One other thing that I've been thinking about doing, and folks can reach out to me and let me know whether they think this is worthwhile. I've been considering doing a monthly coffee where I'll just set a date, and if anybody wants to come and just talk about ideas they have for the club, concerns they have about the club, or anything that's on their mind, we'll make a time and place, and I'll be available to you for that. Okay, that's all I have for now. Happy to answer any questions, though.
Yeah, I just had a real quick question. You know, the president isn't able to participate in the raffle. How are you going to augment your income in the coming year?
Graft. It'll be graft primarily.
Thank you for that. I'm new to Boulder, so very excited to be part of this club. But I wonder, given the times we're in, I would encourage maybe the president and the board to think about ways that we can support each other in perhaps a rapid response kind of way, because so many of us are involved in things that matter to the community, and that may cause us each some challenges. So I don't know, it's a different time that we're in, and so maybe we need to be thinking about that kind of community within our group as well. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for that comment. I couldn't agree with you more. One thing that I neglected to mention but should have is we have a lot of new members. It was a successful year from a membership standpoint. I think we're up double digits, and that's fantastic because that's net. So that includes any attrition that we've had. So that means we got a lot of new members in our midst. And one thing I really want to encourage people is you see the list of projects that we're working on. You sometimes hear that we have 63 committees. And that should not be discouraging of people who have ideas for projects that they want the club to engage in. There's lots of different ways to do that. One is to email me, one is to reach out to the committee chair that you think is most appropriate. But you know, I wanted to do a homeless kit project, and so I brought that to the club and I got support, and we did a homeless kit project. If there is something that you're passionate about, I cannot encourage you strongly enough to come to the club and propose it. And I'll just say one more thing. The funds that we received, the incredibly generous funds that we received from Gordon Gamm, one of the things that he wants our club to undertake is a project which he's funding to help with childhood nutrition. So if anyone has an interest in that particular area of service, I'd really like to encourage you to reach out, because we can find resources for you to do that with Gordon's funds. So thanks. Danny.
So Bill, I want to ask you, how do you plan on responding to one of our members who gave you advice to say that most important thing is you got to make each meeting fun?
Okay. Well, I hope to be boring and monotonous. No, I will make my best effort to maybe throw a joke in here and there and have a sense of humor. I'm told that I'm not funny by my kids quite regularly, but perhaps you all will disagree.
I want to apologize to you and to Trenton, because when I was a teenager in the late 50s and we went from Philadelphia to New York, across the river, there was a big sign, "What Trenton makes, the world takes." And we laughed ourselves silly. But apparently Trenton does send something valuable to the world.
Thanks, Stan. I saw that bridge a lot as a kid. You all may know that it's from the Roebling Steel Company, and but my dad always joked when I was a kid, Trenton uses what the world refuses. That is not what the sign said.
Hey, Bill, at risk of pouring cold water on the ideas of being happy and joyful and so on, I want to come back to a serious issue. I really endorse your notion of the third goal in trying to build up the International World Service Committee contributions. One thing we might add to your analysis is that not only do you leverage at the district and then at RI, you also can begin that process locally by conglomerating with other clubs. And there are many, many smaller clubs in the district who take $2,000 or $3,000 worth of contribution and turn that into $12,000 or $15,000 for a project by the time they're done with it as well. So we have that option as well. The other thing, though, I was a little surprised in coming back into the club last year to discover that we were not as busy in that area as we have been. And so I think it's really important. It's a major burden for, I think, obligation for the larger clubs, including this one, which is now, I believe, the largest club in the district, to take on the lead in developing that concept for the district and setting the tone for Rotary regionally. One of the things that would be important in that work, if you find a few volunteers who would be willing to lead in this, is to emphasize the concept of sustainability. 25 years ago, Rotary was very active in all of this as well, but it wasn't very good at accountability for what happened with the projects afterwards. It's easy to go dig wells, I'm overstating that, to put in pipelines and so on, but what's really important is knowing that that project's going to be well run and continuing 5, 10 years down the road. So I'd put that criterion right up at the top of your list as you're working with that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Wick. I think we are incredibly fortunate because Alessandro has built so many relationships with local clubs, and we have been generous in supporting their projects. And so I think we have built a network among the clubs to get that kind of support going forward. I think there has been a bit of a COVID hangover, and we just haven't gotten back to it in the way that we'd like. So hopefully folks will come forward with ideas, and we will remedy that. I think I'm about out of time, so I guess the only thing that I'd like to...
Well,
What?
we have one question online
Oh, okay.
from NCW, so
Okay.
we're going to go to her. That's going to be the last question.
All right,
Okay,
thanks, Vanessa.
Am I on? Can you hear me?
Do you hear us? Yes.
I can't. Can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
you can hear me. All right, you don't have to see me because you know what I look like, right, Bill? Okay. My question to you, my question to you, Bill, is: are you ever going to be coming out to visit in Las Vegas like the previous president, Chris Coker, did, and so we can sit down and have a chat? I'll treat you for coffee.
That sounds lovely. I will say that I just celebrated my 20th wedding anniversary on Thursday, and
Congratulations.
and it's a tough time from busy with work and all of that standpoint. And I said to my wife, well, I know you had wanted to go to Venice, but like, what do you think about just maybe going to the Venetian?
Yes.
She did not like that idea, and so we went to the real Venice. It is a little bit nicer, but I would love to make it down there. I really want to make it to the Sphere, Nancy, so maybe we can go see a concert.
You got it.
Um,
Well, not too lively because I'm past that stage already.
all right,
Thank you, Bill. Congratulations.
thanks, Nancy. So just the last thing I'd like to say is I'm really honored to hold this position. I'm thankful to all of you for placing your trust in me, and I will try my very best not to let you down. So thank you, everyone.
Hi, Boulder Rotary. Hi, Bill. Amazing work. The club, I'm sure, is very appreciative of you jumping in and just handling this with grace and enthusiasm. It only took 20 plus years for me to get the last word being around you, but we finally made it there. Um, one of the best things I think I ever did in Rotary was actually introducing Rotary to you. You're pragmatic, you're articulate, you have a can-do attitude that is really going to benefit the club and and everything that you do. What's the bad news? Well, Daryl already mentioned it, and I literally have a note here to ask you, how are you going to win the raffle anymore? You can't. It's over. Finally, that happened as well. And as you know, Rotary's principal effort over the years has been polio eradication. So the club is pleased to donate 100 doses of vaccine to those efforts in your name, Bill Anderson, otherwise known as Boulder Rotary's Big Beautiful Bill. Bill, congratulations, and I look forward to seeing how your year goes.
Congrats, Bill.
Good job. That was excellent, big, beautiful Bill. BBB. Okay.